Back on, ladies and gentlemen, with a conversation that is often had and spoken about. Modi's Northeast Story is the book that we'll talk about, and the authors, one of them is the national spokesperson of the BJP, Tuhin, Sinha, and a compulsive author and writer. And Aditya Pittie is also with us. Aditya, who's been an acquaintance, a friend, a commentator. He wears multiple hats, but let me first ask you, the foreword has been written by JP Nadda ji, National President of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So, is this political or is this apolitical? And the structure of this book, Aditya, if you were to say, that you've got people from various backgrounds to curate and write their own experiences. How did this idea happen?
So at least, from my perspective, the book was never meant to be, and I don't think it is political. We were wanting to have an account to document what has actually happened in the Northeast. And this idea also came about when Tuhin ji and I were discussing. We said let's list out the top 5 achievements of the Modi government in the last 9 or 10 years. And Northeast was one of them, one of the top 5. And then when I thought about it, we realized that not much is known beyond the headline news that development has happened in Northeast. I'm a business person, an industrialist, and I tried to ask a lot of people, do you know what's happened? So not many people knew. And secondly, when I tried to research that has something been documented comprehensively, it hasn't. So,
generally, industrialists shy away from talking much about the Modi story, but you're putting yourself out there, co-authoring a book.
The idea is I'm passionate about nation building. I'm very patriotic, I'm passionate about nation building, and I especially thought, in fact, the reverse. Contrarian thinking that people like me should come, step forward and talk about this more openly. It's very important, and I think at least for me it's my Sabka Prayas moment.
Sabka Prayas moment, truly, but nobody said, Aditya, kyun kar raha hai? Dhande ko nuksan hoga. Why are you endeavoring getting into something like this? Do you really want to do it?
So people, I'll admit, people were surprised. In fact, friends, family were more surprised. But they know how I think. So I like thinking out of the box and doing new things and new challenges. So I don't think they were very surprised.
They were not very surprised. Nobody in the industry, your peer and all said, no, why are you putting yourself out there as a quote-unquote Modi Bhakt?
No, not really. I think overall the response has been very positive. And in fact, I think I have managed to nudge a lot of my business friends to come out a little more openly and, kind of nudge them to come forward to do something of their own. So I think it's been a positive impact.
So you're nudging people into doing something positive. But let me ask you, what was the biggest insight for you from these commentaries? Because the essays written by the people who have written their essays, it's a compilation and curation, and you've edited their essays. A lot of them have plied their ways in the Northeast. A lot of them have business interests in the Northeast. A lot of them have traveled to the Northeast, studied about the Northeast. What was the one big eye-opener when you went through, when you got all of it?
I think the biggest eye-opener was that how this important and very large region of India was ignored for so many decades. That was actually an eye-opener for me. Again, sitting in Pune, I had very less knowledge of what's happened in Northeast. And even on the positive story side, like I said, I just knew the headline news. So that was surprising to me. But when we traveled there extensively, Tuhin ji and me, what surprised me was the scale of infrastructure development and the speed with which this has happened. It's a geographically very difficult region of the country, mountainous, valleys, rivers, etc. So to get first time, airports, railway lines, roads, bridges was a mammoth task, and it's happened, according to me, fairly below the radar. I don't think it's got the kind of attention it deserves. We were there on that Bhupen Hazarika bridge. It's a 9.1 kilometer bridge. Just standing there is astounding.
Yeah, it'll never be built as what was said, the one that connects Majuli and that entire region, isn't it? And it drops down, by a day and a half or something like that, it drops down the travel or commute across. Because I remember going there back in 2012, 2013 and they said, sir, bridge hota to abhi 15 minute mein pahunch jate, 20 minute mein pahunch jate, abhi dekho 3 ghanta, 5 ghanta lagega, 5 hours it will take.
For me, unfortunately, I have not had a before and after experience. I went there only after, but the stories we heard and the anecdotes we heard were quite amazing.
General V.K. Singh writes about this Tuhin Sinha when he says that the biggest change that I've seen in his commentary is the infrastructure. I've gone there, I was a minister for a year before the ministry was taken away from me, and then he says, I can see it's palpable difference, the amount of roads that have been built. So one of the commentaries that I've read a bit. But how did you convince them to write about this?
Well, it was a difficult task, but Modi hai to mumkin hai. So the kind of work that has happened under the leadership of Modi ji inspires everybody to work harder, and obviously you got to communicate what has been done, because then if you don't communicate it properly, then you will end up being like the Congress party. So fortunately, all the top leaders, including Himanta Biswa Sharma ji, Kiran Rijiju ji, Pema Khandu ji, were extremely forthcoming when we approached them. And I think when we were first discussing the book, we were very clear that at least with the amount of things that I do, I should not be writing it, or we have limited information about the Northeast. So the best way to curate this book or to bring forth this book would be to make it a democratic exercise to reach out to people and make them the real protagonists of the book. The people who have been at the forefront of initiating or executing the change, or those people who have witnessed this transformation unfolding from the closest quarters. So that is how we identify these 23 people, and it's a very eclectic mix. So it can't be called a political book while there are 7 or 8 politicians. There are journalists, there is an anthropologist, there is an Indologist, there are 3 entrepreneurs. So all of that makes it a very eclectic mix. In fact, when it comes to Manipur, you have a very enterprising entrepreneur, Lerenjam Niranjan Singh.
Yeah, it's the last one, decoding Manipur's entrepreneurial journey.
Similarly, you have a lady called Tage Rita from Arunachal Pradesh who runs an organic winery, who has been an agriculture engineer.
Yeah, the entrepreneurial push. Okay.
So she's spoken about her experience and how the initiatives of the central government and the state government only encouraged her in her business.
Northeast had crores of people. All of Bharat has crores of people. How can one political party be blamed for an entire region today that becomes 7 or 8 sisters now coming together?
So, like I said again, I have looked at this.
I'm not trying to put you in the spot. I'm just asking you, did you turn around and say, why is it that we as Indians did not know about a large part of our country and did not even bother? How is it possible that one particular political entity or party can be held to blame for it? Is it possible?
It's a complex history, and like I said, more from a business perspective, that's like kind of the first question you asked me. That's what astounded me the most. That how's all this happened now?
And there is such rich flora, fauna, resource, minerals, workforce, a very, very productive workforce. All of that was not there till they came looking for jobs to this part of the country, didn't it?
But I honestly believe that central government has a very important role to play. Again, with my business hat, one thing that nobody can build or develop or set up on their own is infrastructure and law and order. As a business guy or an entrepreneur, you need the government to provide you these 2 things.
Let me bring in Lerenjam Niranjan Singh, and he talks about Manipur's entrepreneurial journey. But Manipur is one of the aspects which is now highlighted as a standoff, as a fracas, as a fact that there is a border issue that still has not been resolved. You're building walls, and you chronicle it beautifully where you say 98% of the Northeast has international boundaries in terms of with various countries, some other countries or the other.
See, it's a very layered, it's a very complex issue. You also got to accept the fact that between March 2017 and April 2023, that long stretch of 6 years and 1 month before the violence flared up again, was also the longest phase where there was no violence, where the state witnessed unprecedented peace and unprecedented growth and progress. Now, of course, there were some dark shadows of the past which we thought were exorcised, but which kind of came up again. But I think there are larger issues involved here. The illegal poppy trade which was happening in the hills, which had gone unaddressed for many years and against which the present government had taken action. And also the, India's ambitious plans of having a highway right up to Thailand.
Co-presented by
Others saying let's make some arrangements and you have to clock in a particular number of hours and it's up to you in how many days you spend it. So you could wrap up work in 3 days or 4 days or 7, it's all up to you. Sounds lovely, right? But in India, where we still glorify hustle culture, where we hear our heroes talk about 70-hour work week and that's which